All right, so Dave's checking with the valve lash on these with his Mr. McFeely gauges.
Hashtag me too's.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, Dave and I are going to be working back on the 1934 Dodge maintenance project. So in this week's video, we're actually going to be taking off the valve covers and adjusting all the Harland Sharp roller rockers. The roller rockers ride on top of the valves, and we hear a little bit of a clacking going on, so I'm pretty sure they need to get adjusted using feeler gauges to actually set the correct tension on all of those roller rockers, being that the engine's got about 1,700 miles on it, and I haven't done any maintenance to that in that regards in quite some time. So we're going to be working on that in this week's video, so let's get to it. So right now we're taking the 4 bolts in the bottom of the valve cover off down here, and then there's 2 bolts along the top. This valve cover will come off. We're just going to inspect inside here. Just do a quick once over and see what the valves look like, or the rockers. But to hold my spark plugs in place right here, I used a little welding wire wrapped around the bottom stud that Dave's having a hard time getting off. So apparently whatever I did worked really well, because those haven't moved and Dave can't get it off. I'm missing rocker arms completely. It's beautiful.
It's more simple than you think. You rotate it so that there's no lash, right?
Mm-hmm. We just give it a little couple love taps to get these valve covers to break free, and then they just come right off.
Like I'm pushing the rocker arm up, and the push rod is going.
Which means what?
There's way too big of a gap.
Oh.
Essentially what you need to do, you need to have it so that the lifter is all the way down and the spring is all the way closed, right? That's what you're hearing. And you see how this is moving?
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That was tight.
Well, it's only tight because the spring is compressed. The cam is up on its lobe. You need to have it so that the cam is at base circle lobe.
So this one's bad.
They're probably all set wrong.
All right, so we got the valve covers off right now. That's what the rockers. I've got some Harland Sharp rockers in here. We're gonna be able to adjust them with these right here. But you can see a couple of these are really loose. And this one just way too much slop in that one. There should be a little bit of a play, but this one's got a lot of play in it. So that's the noise we're hearing. So we're going to adjust these properly. Dave's got his cover off over on that side. So I've got an angle cam, and on the cam sheet that Dave's looking at right there on his phone, zoom in, enhance. Right there it actually tells you what your valve lash should be for this specific cam and this motor. So I'm glad I took a picture of that so we know.
Okay.
All right, so Dave's checking with the valve lash on these with his Mr. McFeely gauges.
Hashtag me too's. Like these all shouldn't be loose. But like I don't know where you're at in the ignition signal, you know, in the crank.
Right.
But I guess we need to put it over to number 1. Yeah, just take out number 1 spark plug.
Oh, that's easier said than done.
Why is everything so freaking hard on this thing? It's open!
I needed a special spark plug wrench. I had to custom make one. So we're gonna put this thing in what, top dead center for 1?
Yeah, it's smaller than this.
All right, so I've got the spark plug taken out from cylinder 1. Now we need to find a socket that's gonna fit the crankshaft so we can spin the engine over. I have a 1 1/8.
All right, let's try that one. I think it might be an inch. it's a little sloppy.
Sloppy jalopy.
It's going to be standard, so yeah, the next one down, I guess, would be 1 1/16".
I have an 1 1/16". I bought them all because I didn't know what I needed. Apparently I never used it either. No?
And this one's too small. What the fuck?
Is it metric?
No. What's so you have 1 3/16". We might be able to use 1 3/16". Like
I have an 1 1/4".
1 1/4" is bigger than 1 3/16".
1 1/8". 1 3/16".
Let's try an 1 1/8".
You already tried that one, right?
I thought we did.
That's 1 1/8". Sloppy.
Like it'll do it. It'll move it.
Okay.
So let's try that one.
So we need.
Yeah.
I don't have. I do not.
You don't have a breaker bar?
No. I have an adapter for that one, but you're gonna be busting knuckles.
Well, that's what we got. That's what we got. I'm a pretty strong guy.
I don't think I'm gonna get my finger in here though. Oh, I heard something.
Wow.
That's to be fun.
The problem is, you know, this much of it. You got this much, that's all you got. Like it has to be, like there's a timing mark right here, which means we might already be close. But I don't know if we're, oh, there's another one here.
Yeah.
So then.
Right now the intake's almost all compressed.
Correct.
And this one looks like it's pretty much compressed. And this one.
So when both of these are up, the lobes are down.
This one's definitely.
Got a lot of gap.
You can get a whole chicken wing in there.
So at 0, which was what we're at. Actually, we're not quite at 0. We're like 10 or 8, something like that. We're going to adjust intake valve number 2 and exhaust valve number 8 with
so
cylinder at number 1 at top dead center.
Which would be here.
Correct.
We think.
Should be. We can take this off and verify it. Now let's just do screws in.
Oh.
So you don't take the wires off.
Need a Phillips head?
Yep. So with number 1, to that one, to that one, to this one, to this one. So it should be, yep, basically. We're slightly past it because we're not quite at top dead center.
Okay.
So yeah, we are actually where we need to be. Is that like a number down there?
Kind of.
And then there's a hole, and there's another number up there.
Yep.
That 0 should be that hole.
So we're just checking to make sure the engine's complete 100% top dead center to start the valve adjustment process.
In this case,
And we took off the distributor cap right here, and it looks like we're pretty close.
well, we're pointed to number 1.
Where we want to be.
So that should be top dead center. We will adjust intake number 2.
Dave's got a little chart on his phone.
Intake number 2, exhaust number 8, when cylinder is number 1 is at top dead center. And then on your cam card, it will have valve lash, and this particular guy who built yours says that it's 0.018 on the intake, and on the exhaust it's 0.020. And then it says 0.020, then 0.22, because you had a little bit of a range. We're going to use a 19 and a 20. So number 1,
Well, 2.
or sorry, number 2, which is this one.
So the intakes are all going to be adjusted to one specification. The exhausts are going to be adjusted to different.
Another one, which is the reason why we needed 2 different ones. We've taken the wrench, we put the box end on here like this, hold that guy, and then you take this thing and loosen it. Like that.
So that nut's just to pretty much lock it in
It's
place.
a locking nut. You're gonna slide this guy in here, Now we said that we wanted the
That's the intake.
this is the smaller one, so we want the smaller one in here. Like to that. That puts it at 21. You can see what the line is where we put the oil. Like that guy in there. So you know it's, make sure you're in the thicker section, 21. So you basically just pull this thing in. Now this is still loose. All right. Now you got it's a roller rocker, so it's pretty easy to over tighten these. You want to make sure that there's no rocking back and forth, not spinning the push rod or anything like that, because you can grab a hold of something and really force it to rotate. These here, you know, you can still do that, still want to be able to pull this in and out, but you don't want any slop moving. All right, now since it's a solid cam, a hydraulic one, you'd have a different thing. You'd go like 3/4 of a turn more, or a turn more, or half a turn more, depending on whatever the manual is. And you take your wrench, and you run that down your fingers. And essentially you hold this where it needs to be, and just give it a little tight. Make sure this is still set right. It still needs to be where it is. Still no more rock back and forth. And that should be, that's set at 21. If you wanted it 19, which is what we should probably do it at, you're gonna put it in, you know, I use the oil as a line. That's the line where the coating is gone. That's where the 19 is, and this is the 21. So you want to push this in so you just see the line equal with your roller, and you still have a little bit, tiny bit of rock. So you do the same thing again. Hold this guy in a tightening fashion, loosen that guy up, push all the preload to your cam, slide that down just a hair, and it's not much. And now, because I got it too tight, now it's like that, where you just can't pull it out.
Tighten it up.
Tighten it down. Do that again. Key is, don't rotate that. And you pull this guy out, and now you're set at 19. And that's all it is. Now the whole reason why you have this gap and whatnot is for expansion. Solid camshaft, you have expansion, heat expansion, as opposed to hydraulic springs and lashes in a hydraulic cam. And that's when this heats up, this all will expand and there won't be any play in there. That's the theory. This one here, as we said, we want the bigger measurement. Slide this guy in here. And this is actually set about where it's supposed to be. There's no slop, there's no movement. So this one's actually okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah, because it said it's not too hard to push in and out. The roller tip goes to that, where that mark is. Yeah, so it's all good. All right,
so on to rotate again.
So now, this is where it gets a little bit more tricky, because the next thing you do is you rotate it 90 degrees. Now, that cam, or that harmonic balancer down here, he probably has another mark. It does, right there. So you're going to rotate that to that line.
Okay.
And then you do it again. When and this next one, which is right here, you'll do number 1 and number 4 with it at number 8. So if you wanted to verify it, you take your cap back off, find out which spark plug's at number 8, and you know you're at the right spot. But essentially, you're just making sure that all these are the farthest away so that you have the gap where it needs to be.
Okay.
All right.
So, onward and upward. And we've cleaned the old gasket off of both the heads and the valve covers. Reinstalling the valve cover.
Oops. Wipe this out real quick.
Gonna make it look nice and pretty.
Alright everyone, that's going to be a wrap for this video. As you can see, Dave and I took the valve covers off the 1934 Dodge maintenance project behind me here. We adjusted all the Harland Sharp roller rockers and put it all back together. Once we ran it, it's really hard to pick up on camera. No more clicking, no more clacking going on underneath those valve covers, so I think we've got everything squared away. So coming up in next week's video, when you did hear the car running, you heard this really loud squealing noise every time it started up. That's coming from the alternator. We checked the belt seems to be tensioned correctly. However, we think the alternator is just really having a hard time spinning initially, causing that really loud squealing. And when that squealing is actually happening, I can actually see the voltage in the cars around 10 volts. As soon as that squealing goes away, the voltage shoots right up to about 13.5 volts. So I've got a new alternator that I'm going to be installing, readjusting the tensioning rod, figuring out a way to fix that tensioning rod, because right now to tension that belt, it's kind of some kludgy method we've got going on. So I'm going to be working on that in next week's video. So as always, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, smash that big red subscribe button, smash that notification icon down below so you know when I do post future videos, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.